Hi, how's it going? Happy Friday. Um, I'm here to talk to you today about a report, a GA4 report that you may find extremely helpful. It's pretty simple. I'm going to show you how to set it up. I'm going to talk about what the implications are. First, I'm going to spend a minute or two just talking about reporting on content and how to show that content is valuable and is useful and is something that you should invest in. There's probably a separate screencast that I need to do about just like, what do I mean when I talk about content, sort of like the Raymond Carver collection. Let's just talk about proving value and characteristics of content in general. So one is that the value of content is it's not that it's diffuse in the sense of it's really spread out. It's rich in a lot of places all at once. So you can point to the value of content for things like customer retention or sales effectiveness or giving your BDRs something to do outreach with or building trust in your brand or just getting impressions or making your ads more effective, because we know that one of the factors Google uses to determine the price you pay for a click is actually like your authority on that particular topic that you're advertising about. So that's another one. And then there's clicks to the website, and there's LLM visibility, and there's probably a dozen things. And so content is valuable in a way, shows its value in a way that other sources, other things you do might not. Not that those other things are not incredibly valuable also in their own way, but their value is much easier to trace to a very specific thing, and content is harder to do in that way. So that's one thing I want to mention. And if you're watching this, you probably already know that, all the places. But then one of the challenges we have at ércule is, okay, so how do we bring that up and make that manifest and obvious? And that's not always clear, which is part of the reason I'm going to do this very simple report for you today. So that's one. Two is the way people engage with content. So what we have seen pretty consistently is that when somebody comes to your website, there is a set of people who might convert on the very first visit to your website. It is not unknown. In fact, it happens frequently. Now, I think you can assume that those people have had the stage set for them in some other way first, whether it's they saw your social posts, there's somebody else in the organization who's sending them to your site, they heard about you on chat, whatever it is. There are you can make some assumptions there. But for the people who don't convert on that first visit, our data says 5 visits, 10 visits, 15 visits, 20 visits, even more than that, during which time they are consuming your homepage and your product pages and your use case pages, and also some of your blogs and maybe your documentation and maybe your white papers and maybe your webinars and all that other stuff. So all of that is part of that journey. And I challenge you to think about the last time that you purchased software or you purchased SaaS or you purchased anything that was B2B. I make those purchases all the time. I get so many spammy outreach emails that I'm not afraid of receiving more. So I will make that confession that I'm a purchaser of B2B software. I do that all the time. And if I don't already have, say, a strong recommendation or previous experience or whatever it is with the tool, I am going to spend a lot of time on your site. I'm going to go and read the thing and then come back and then maybe read it later and blah, blah, blah. I might also try to sign up. There's at least one software product this week where we're not going to use them because I have to go through a demo, and that's a separate, that's a separate screencast maybe, and maybe that's what they want because we're not their ICP and a bunch of other stuff. But anyway, think about when you go and you make a purchase like this, how much time you spend going to sites, building trust, understanding the brand, doing all that stuff, even for relatively small purchases, because it's not just about the money, it's about the time you're going to invest in it. So showing content's value is hard because it is very diffuse. It happens all over the place. Not all are measurable. And on the web, we know that a lot of people consume tons and tons of content before they make a purchase decision. So the rest of this live stream, I'm going to show you this report. And thanks for waiting. I didn't mean to make this too preamble-y. And let's look at, hold on one second. I'm going to get this open here. Going to do some bringing up pages. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to share this with you. So let us share screen. And we'll look here. Let's do that one. Okay. So here it is. No, it's not because you can't see it yet. Here we go. Hi. Okay, great. So here's what it fundamentally looks like. I'm going to show you how to build it. It's a very simple Google Analytics report. It depends on you having Google Analytics implemented correctly. It depends on you having something called a key event, although that's not necessarily necessary, but those are pretty straightforward to implement too. And what this shows is simply how often did somebody consume content. So here we're actually including the docs, but because a lot of our clients are technical, docs is part of that, but you can easily exclude it or include it. You'll see it says page location matches regex. So that's basically saying, does it match one of these patterns? And the patterns we're using are blog resources docs. You can use this for any pattern on your site. You could use it for the product pages. You could use it for the homepage. But for now, we're going to talk about sort of our general content pages. Step one is that. And then step two is they converted. They triggered a key event. Key event equals true. Now, key events are Google Analytics events that have a little star next to them. That's it. I can show you at some point what's involved in defining a key event, but it's literally going to a page, an admin page in GA4 and checking off that little star. And that's what a key event means. And typical key events are things like they filled out the contact form, they filled out the demo form, they signed up for a webinar or downloaded a white paper. There can be lots of other ones too. Those can all be key events. Sometimes they downloaded a software package, something like that. Key events are typically not first visit to the website because everybody does that. It makes it not useful. Page views, not things like that, things that are commercially valuable. So all I'm doing here is I have a funnel that says, did they visit content? And then did they have a key event? I don't do it the other way around because that doesn't show the kind of progression of causative value. And this is just an example, but this one shows content, 8,200 users, and then a little more than 0.5% of them actually then go on to a key event. Now, we, with our clients, usually aim for 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever the number is. But and this is a user thing, by the way, this is not views. So it's not like we're double counting. If they went to one piece of content, then another, that doesn't show up in here twice. It only shows up in here once. But let's take this number 54. Now 54, these are leads who are likely qualified, certainly more qualified than average, almost certainly more qualified than somebody you might get from Google Ads or from other places where they haven't spent a lot of time on your site. So let's take that 54 and it's useful to know what the value of a lead is for you. That's useful to know in general. And we spend a lot of time helping companies understand that part, and we do financial models, all this other stuff. So we'd be happy to talk to you about that. But it's useful to have a sense. And I think for a lot of companies, you can make the case that like, hey, a really qualified lead, that's worth $200, $300, something like that. Certainly for, a lot of companies we work with that have big annual contract values and things like that. But you can decide what the right number is. Let's say it's $300. That is provably $16,000 of leads. And this is the least interesting, most conservative, fractional way that you can possibly measure this. I just want to be really clear about that. It's not a very comprehensive sense of all the places that content shows up as valuable, and you need it anyway, and all these other things. But this is a very good indicator and a very simple one to set up, which I will show you in a second. And it won't take me that long to show you. And it's sort of provable in a way. There's lots of ways you can quibble with it. Now, whether you're just making the investment in creating the content or whether you make investments in, making it visible or, GEO or SEO or social or whatever, that might be a separate conversation. But the content itself and some of the efforts that you're doing there, here is some demonstrable value. So that's what it looks like. And we found this very helpful to kind of show clients like, hey, at the very least, you got this. There's a lot more, but there's also this. There's another interesting wrinkle to this before I show you how to build this, which is what percentage of people, because remember, you're going to have a small fraction of converters anyway. Like there's going to be a very small percentage of people who come to your site who convert anyway. It might be even lower than what you get from content. Building sites and getting your name out there, it's not marketing. It's not about finding the one person, getting them to your site and convert. It's about building that awareness and building lots of funnel and traffic and people to come to the site and become aware. And then a tiny fraction of those are actually going to become your customers. So that's not specifically weird. But the other thing that we should be able to show here, and let's see what happens when I do this. Okay, is showing you, I'm just looking at these numbers and thinking about this. All right. Showing you what percentage of, and I think this particular data is a little bit off, but it shows you what I'm talking about. What percentage of conversions include content in the path? So what I showed you first was what percentage of all website visitors are influenced by content on their way to converting. That's all website visitors. Here I'm going to show you what percentage of conversions in general are influenced by content. This one's actually a little bit low. You can see it's about a little over 10-15%. It's actually surprising. I think the report might be a little bit busted. We can fix that. Generally speaking, what we find is that it's about half. About half of the converters on your site are going to touch content in some way on their journey. So that's another piece of this. So there's the piece of, we build the content, what's the ROI of the content, what is it sort of, what can we show in terms of generated leads? And then there's the other part of like which percentage of leads in general touch content, and it tends to be a pretty high percentage. Let's talk about how this report is built, and then I'm going to wrap up. I'm just going to show you this real quick. So there are a few pieces, little concepts here that you need to be aware of. So one is the idea of segments. And this is a sort of advanced in some ways, but I'm going to try to walk you through the pieces here. So a segment is a way of breaking down your traffic, of saying, I only want to look at this group of sessions or this group of users or whatever it is. And so this example is a content before conversion segment. The page location includes content and it's indirectly followed. You can also do directly followed by, I don't recommend that. And you can, but it's not going to give you a good picture, but you can change it to directly. Indirectly means at some point they then do a key event. So that's the content before conversion segment. And then there are other segments we can have here, but the most interesting one is just all users. All users is a segment. It's just a segment that has everybody in it. So those are the two segments. And then what we're doing is we're saying, okay, pick a funnel report. You always want a standard funnel. Otherwise, it's going to report on absolutely everything. It's going to be bad. It's not going to be very useful. I could change this to, actually, you can also do a trended funnel. Trended funnel can be useful if you have enough data. But there's the open funnel switch down there. And this is basically like, just like don't count anything in there. It's not useful for this purpose where you're trying to show one step leading to another. And then you got your steps here. And the steps are the same ones that we have in our segment. The steps are the page location matches this. And then the second one, the key event is true. So for this part of the report, for this funnel exploration here, you're reporting on the all users segment. So you can actually see that I don't have any segments in here. So this is just all users. You don't even need segments for this part. And then if you want to show that second part where we're saying, okay, well, show me all conversions and show me out of the set of conversions, what percentage has touched content. That's where you look at your segments, you drag them into the report. And you can see on this one, I've got my segment comparisons here, and I'm looking at the all users segment, the conversion segment in general, how many people converted, it was 120, and then how many people did content before conversions, oh, that was 54. That's the same 54 that's in here. So you're taking that 54 as a subset of all conversions instead of all visitors to the site. And that's showing you two different things. That's it. Actually, that's it for today, I think, in general. I'm going to talk for like 2 more minutes, but what did we talk about? We talked about the difficulty of attributing success to content. There's lots of ways to do it. I could probably name a dozen. And there's lots of ways to implement all of those. And people spend a ton of money on MarTech tools to try to figure out how do I do, So just keep that in mind. And the more of that we can surface, the more we can narrate to everybody else, hey, this is why it's important to make this investment. This is why this makes you money. That's really important for us to know as content marketers. How does it do that? And then this is one little lens that is pretty easy to get, relatively speaking. You don't even have to do the segments for this first report. You just set up that funnel report in Google Analytics. The first step is they visited some content. The second one is that key event is true. They triggered a key event. And then you can see, 54, 100, 200, 300, 1,000, whatever the number is. And then you multiply that by what is a lead worth, especially one who's already engaged, who knows who we are, who's probably qualified in some way. So what if I multiply that out? Oh, it's $300 a lead. Well, this is an easy way of showing it. The minimum, total minimum, incredibly reductive, conservative minimum. It's getting us 10, 20, 30, 100, 200,000, $1 million a month. So this is a very simple way to look at it. And part of what I want to convey too is the more we can find these reports that easily let us show, hey, here's how this makes you money, CEO, CMO, leadership team, the easier our jobs are. So yeah, that's it. That's the simple report. Thanks for being with me this morning. Let me know if you have questions. I'm sorry if I missed questions in the live stream. I will get to those afterward, or DM me or send me an email, justin@ércule.co. Ooh, I'm going to remove the screen share. I should have probably removed it a while ago, but there's my email address right there. Thanks, y'all. Have a great weekend. See ya.